Hello everybody, this is Jay Weldy with jrweldy.net. It's Sunday, January 3rd, 2016 at 6:34 a.m. and I've had a few requests on Guacamole HTML5 and how to set it up. And it's a pretty vibrant community. If you go to Wget, I think it is, let's have a look here. Yeah, guac-dev.org. It'll pretty much give you an understanding of what Guacamole HTML5 does, and the manual, help, support, etc. So if you go through here, it'll tell you how to install natively on a server, the required dependencies, and it's a fairly complex deployment to get this running on a server. You got to have the Guacamole server, you got to have the Guacamole client installed, you have to have SQL database installed, you know, a bit of stuff, and the source code, get all of that together. And for someone like me who has really rudimentary Unix skills, it's kind of an overwhelming thing to get this all set up. So people have gone to my YouTube channel, seen some of the ways that I utilize Guacamole, and for the most part, my videos are a real gloss over of the concept of everything. I admit that, I understand that. And I get a lot of dislikes on videos because they're expecting a very in-depth how-to on using Guacamole, so, or any other, you know, software or server setup that I do. And you know, I'll be upfront about it. A lot of times I dive in and I'm not quite sure what I'm doing in regards to setup. So if I do this behind the scenes, then I want to show the final use case for the whatever project I'm doing, and not necessarily its setup. But we're going to do a full setup video, and this is going to be a little longer than normal for me. So there's going to be a lot of dead audio time. I'm going to do my best to edit in real time the video. So what we see here is Guacamole HTML5, and I have some things set up here. And we're going to go ahead into a server that I have set up for accounting, but it also has Zen Center. And I'm going to install this in Zen Server. I believe it's 6.5 point something, but the following instructions would pretty much be exactly the same for a physical machine. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start installing CentOS 7 minimal install first on this box, and then we are going to pardon me, we are going to install Guacamole HTML5 the easy way. So we'll get to it. I have the ISO on a DVD in the drive already, and I'm going to leave this default, except for I'm going to give it 3 gig of RAM memory, and we're going to change the hard drive size to something a little more robust for this test. I'm going to remove network 1 and leave network 0. It's just easier on the back end to have one NIC. And we're going to start it up. Okay, so for some reason, with CentOS 7, the way I'm doing it, it doesn't do me it doesn't do a graphic mode. So what I'm going to do is just go into troubleshooting and let it run in a text mode. Somebody who's a little more familiar with CentOS may have a solution for that, but I don't really work in CentOS a lot. Like I said, my Unix skills are rudimentary, and Ubuntu server is about what I normally work with when I do Linux style software. Okay, so we can see that X startup failed. It's falling back on to text mode, and these prerequisites have to be applied and set up before it will do the install of CentOS. So I'm going to go in and start doing this. And I always have a hard time at this point where it's selecting number 3 and 4. Okay, we'll go on 5. Configures the storage. So now we've got all of that done. We've got to do 7, 8. Okay, so we'll go to 7. And I'm going to set my host name. And I'm going to configure the network. And for this, I'm going to just use DHCP, but we have to pick, for that, we have to pick 1, 7, and 8. So we're going to do 1. Okay, and we're going to do 7. We're going to do 8. Okay, and we're going to continue. Alright, go on to root password. And I'm going to use Guacadmin because that'll make sense down the road. But you'll want to use a password here somewhere that makes sense to you. And we're going to continue, well, let's see, we'll do 9. And we're going to use 1. Oops. 2. Okay. I'm just going to use the same one if it allows me to. 4. 6. At that point, we can just say continue. Go back to 9. And and 5 for password. Okay, continue. And we are now ready to begin installation by hitting B. And I'm going to pause this while it does the installation. Okay, so now we've gotten to the point where it's performing post-installation and configuring install system, generating the add-ons, etc. And we're pretty much, once this gets to a user login, a bone stock install of CentOS 7, minimal. And I'm not going to go through what Guacamole HTML5 does in this video really, other than the fact that I can show you that I am using it to remote one of my Windows Server 2008 virtual machines here. So that kind of gives you an idea. Plug-in free, remote desktop in a browser is what it is. And now we are at the point where it tells you, hey, we're going to go ahead and load this, and we'll go ahead and load CentOS, which is basically booting the physical server that you just installed CentOS on. And I want to point out, this is kind of the scope of this video is towards newbie users who want to be able to install Guacamole on their network and have access to remote resources and legacy applications the easy way. Okay, so we are at the login screen, and we want to look at where Guacamole is. So if you go to sourceforge.net and type in Guacamole, you're going to get more than a few files, and you'll see the actual Guacamole HTML5 files. And it's had 2,310 downloads this week so far, and the current version is 0.9.9, I believe. So you can go in and look at the files and do it the hard way here and compile it all yourself, or you can go back and look at this file, which is the Guacamole install script, and it has had 52 downloads this week, and I would say probably 3 or 4 of those are mine because I've tried to do this video a couple times. What this script does is install all the package dependencies for you. It downloads Guacamole and the MySQL connector packages, installs the server, the client, the connector, Maria database, firewall, and sets up Tomcat server for you so you have the web page except available to you. And let's look at who this is brought to us by. This gentleman is Hernan Dario, and I'm not even going to try and butcher his last name here because I'm sorry, it's Dasament. I'm not going to do it to him. Anyway, he's kind enough to provide this really nice install script, which he got out on SourceForge, and it does everything for you. It can't be easier, really. So if you're willing to be one version back, then certainly do this. Okay, so we're going to go in as my admin account. And now we are ready to get set up with the script. So the first thing I have to do, since I don't have Wget on here, is yum install Wget. Put in your password. You need to be root to perform this command. Well, I am root. Okay, yum, install wget. Damn it, I think I screwed myself up. Let's try Okay, that got us where we needed to go. And it's going to ask, do we want to install this? Yes. Yes. Okay, so we are now all set up there. Let's go ahead back to this, and we'll look at files. We'll look at CentOS, and all we need to do, we don't need to download any of this stuff up here. All we have to do is follow this right down here. So let me move this over a bit and get started here. Wget HTTP, and just follow that. And make sure everything's capped. That's all, you know, that shows it as capped. And hit enter there. Okay, we got the file. Now we need to check mod this. And what this does is give the file the correct permissions to install and do what it needs to do. Okay, that's done. Now we want to run that. So that'll be that period slash guacamole dash install dash script dot sh, and sh means it's going to run it. Alright, now we got color. Let's bring that back over. And I can't thank this gentleman enough for setting up this install script for the community, because it really does a great job. Alright, so it's going to ask some questions here, and these are questions that you will fill out as the administrator of Guacamole. So we're going to generate a root password. I'm going to just use guacadmin again for this. Database name, I'm going to use guac. Database username, I'm going to use root. And I'm going to use guacadmin again. Now this is a Java Keystore password, so we're going to do a long password here. That worked. And I think I have a problem because I have to be sudo here. Yeah, okay. So let's run that command again with sudo in front of it. And see how that works. Okay, now it's doing what it should be doing. The reason that it's asking me for that is because I actually set up the first user with the same rights as, or same username and password as the root, sudo root. Okay, so now it's working right. It's doing the packages. Sorry for the little extra steps there. Don't want to confuse anybody. It's actually a lot easier than that. And for those people who are genuine Unix and Linux gurus, I apologize too. I am, like I said, very rudimentary in my Unix skills. But this is a fantastic script. I mean, it really, I've struggled with trying to set up Guac for a couple of years. And to have this script and make it so easy that it really tells you what to do and when to do it really makes the point of setting all of this up the hard part being installing CentOS. So again, thank you, sir. And I'm going to go ahead and pause this while this is all compiling. Okay, just ran over and got some coffee from the coffee maker, and we're about almost done with the install of Guac on here. I mean, really, I think if I didn't have the errors with the root password, this is probably a 5-minute job once you get CentOS installed. Oh, and I want to get back to the setup of CentOS. When you're at the point where you've got to set up your network, ETH0 or whatever it is, to really make this bulletproof. I use DHCP in this example, but to make this really bulletproof on your network is to assign it a static IP address with all the DHCP settings set up and DNS. So it resolves properly and another machine doesn't steal the IP address on the network for one reason or another. So if you were to do this manually set up each one of these dependencies, you better know what you're doing, number one, I think, and number two, for somebody like me, it may drive you crazy by the time you're done. Somewhere along at the end here, it's going to ask for to set up a self-signed security certificate for SSL. And if you're going to use SSL, you'll want to buy your own security certificate and import it properly. However, that is outside the scope of this demonstration. Okay, I'll pause again. Okay, so we are getting close to the finish here. And all it's doing is setting up that information that you entered at the beginning of the script. Okay, so here is the Keystore information that you're going to need. What is the first name and last name? I'm just going to use that. 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 Type in yes. Sets up firewall, tells you 8080 and 8443 for SSL, and where you need to go to, and who you need to write to if you have any issues or concerns or suggestions. Actually, just suggestions. Alright, so now we need to find the IP address of this machine, and that's why I did this search. So you'll want to type in IPADDR show. And let's see, 126 is the IP that it should be. .8080 Guacamole. And we are live. We're running 0.9.8. The default username for the administrative account that it creates is guacadmin, and the password is guacadmin. That's why I used those on the server side. Probably not a good idea, but you know, for a demo, that's fine. Just easy to remember. And now, as an admin, you can go in and add users. I'm going to add a new user. It's going to ask me for the password. I'm going to say I'm an admin. I can create, I can create, I can create, I can change, and I'm going to save. Okay, so I'm in here, and I'm going to log out now. I'm going to log back in as myself. I'm going to go back to settings. This is the first thing I do whenever I deploy this. I'm going to click on Guac Admin, and I'm going to delete that original administrative account so that nobody can get into my system somehow. And you can see that I've got mine. And now I can create connections. So if I wanted to create a connection or a group, I do it here. Groups are just groups of computers located under the root. So if I had desktops, and servers, there we go. And a new connection, and we get started. So now at this point, it's really ready to deploy. You will get an error if you go in as SSL because it's self-signed. You'll need to make that change before doing anything else. And we'll look at how I use it. Okay, so we're up and running with Guacamole HTML5 with a lot less effort and time involved than trying to compile it yourself. And we'll go ahead. I'm just going to get out of Zen Center. And you can see here's my version of Guacamole HTML5. How I use it. We'll log into my EXO platform, which I've set up for a couple people, a couple organizations now. And EXO platform is a enterprise social network. Takes a little bit of time on my machine to bring it up first time, but after that it runs very well. On my clients, of course, I've slammed a lot of memory at them, so it performs a lot better than my private version here at the office. I believe I have it running. Yep, here we go, and that's my sweetheart. I embed Guacamole HTML5 inside of other pages. So the use case here is that we use EXO platform as a primary communication device for our organization. Our employees come in here to see what is going on within each unit, organizational unit, departments, document management, all sorts of things. You can look up EXO platform. It's great. They have a open source version. So I embed the application within EXO platform so that my users have access to the computers that they need to work on right within a web browser as an iframe. So here's an example, and as an administrator I can get in here and do maintenance on these machines. Really handy. Guacamole is really handy for legacy applications that you can't set up easy to be web applications. So you Guacamole can set up you can set it up on the connection string to open a specific application for a user instead of the desktop. So number one, your legacy apps like accounting. Another really good example is CAD. So if you had a CAD machine that you had multiple users logging onto, all those files are on the server that they're connected to. They can print what they need to print. You can set up remote drives. You can set up SFTP. Really very handy. So you don't have a whole bunch of people running around that you have to install applications on their desktops. You install it on the server, and all the files are located in one place for all the users. Really handy. So that's a very in-depth overview of installing CentOS and Guacamole HTML5 for the uninitiated. Have a great day, everybody. Hope you're enjoying your new year, and please stay safe.